Question 1 says, why did Mr. Gage, aka Phineas Gage, survive his accident when the brain parts were left undamaged that allowed him to live? So Phineas Gage survived a very severe injury, and an iron tamping rod was driven through his skull, entering under his cheek, passing behind his eye, and exiting through the top of the skull. What was damaged was a large portion of his left frontal lobe was destroyed, both cortex and especially the white matter connections in the region. About 4% of his cerebral cortex, mostly in his left frontal lobe, was directly intersected by the rod. Meanwhile, more than 10% of his white matter was damaged, which disrupted connections between various brain regions: left frontal, left temporal, right frontal, and left limbic structures. What was left undamaged and less sufficiently intact to allow survival and functioning was the right hemisphere, some white matter tracts connecting undamaged portions, and subcortical structures and brainstem. So altogether, although the left frontal cortex and its connections were heavily damaged, many other essential brain areas, especially those governing basic life support, many sensory and motor areas, and much of the rest of the brain were preserved, though that allowed Gage to survive, though his personality and behavior were altered significantly. Number 2 says, what are HeLa cells? HeLa cells, and where did they come from? HeLa cells are a line of human cells used in biomedical research that are immortalized, meaning they can divide indefinitely under laboratory conditions. This makes them very useful for a wide variety of experiments. They came from a sample of cervical cancer tumor taken from a woman, Henrietta Lacks, in 1951 at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. The tumor cells from her cervix were collected without her knowledge or fully informed by consent by today's standards and given to the researcher George Otto Gay, who was trying to culture human cells. These cells showed an unusual property. Unlike previous human cells in labs, they kept growing and dividing. They didn't die off after a few divisions. Because of this, HeLa became the first widely used human cell line and has been used in many breakthroughs, vaccine developments, cancer research, and various virus studies. Number 3 says, what is meant by the mind-gut connection, and what 4 major organisms make up the gut microbiome? So the mind-gut connection refers to the two-way communication between the gastrointestinal tract, the gut, and the brain. It involves neural pathways, aka the vagus nerve, hormonal signaling, immune system signals, microbiota, metabolites, or metabolites. The gut can influence mood, cognition, immune function. Conversely, stress, mood, and brain states can influence gut function. And the microbiome composition. The 4 major groups include bacteria, fungi, viruses, and archaea.